It was 500 years ago today when Jesus came to Noah and bestowed upon him 10 holy commandments for which all of humanity to live by. Tell the truth, even when inconvenient. Honor your parents as you would wish to be honored yourself. Thinking of coveting that ox? Think again. But no commandment more sacred than thou shalt not steal, for theft is the foundation to all sin. To murder is to steal a life, to cheat is to steal a chance at fairness, and to lie is to steal the truth. And so it was Jesus' will that a sin as wretched as theft should never be forgiven. But Jesus ain't here right now. If you have ever come home from a long day of work, smoked a fat joint, and were immediately overcome by the insatiable urge to watch season 3 of Malcolm in the Middle at 4 AM, then you've probably tangoed with the idea of piracy. I mean, you could go on Amazon and purchase the complete DVD box set and enjoy the show legitimately in 2 to 5 business days, but, counterproposal, fuck that. I'm going to log on to Google, type in www.proxybay.gov, hack a mainframe, and watch that shit right now, because if I'm not staring at Frankie Muniz's weirdly handsome 14-year-old face in the next 30 seconds, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. When it comes to illegally downloading video games, however, things are a little more complicated. 9 times out of 10, it's not enough to just download the game. You gotta download the whole GameCube. Now, let me be clear. Pirating video games is wrong, and you shouldn't do it. They are expensive to make, and the people who work really hard on them deserve to be compensated. That said, if it's a game you already bought at some point, didn't come out in your country, or is from a few console generations ago, well then yar har tiddly dee, my dude. While most people would agree that pirating new releases, or especially indie games, is sort of a dickhead maneuver, emulating older games is generally much less controversial. If you swerved on Wind Waker when you were 7 and decided you wanted to give it a go at the age of 24, no one's gonna call the cops on you for Jack Sparrowing that shit. To some people, it's a matter of preservation. Most companies can't be trusted to make their older catalogue readily available on the brand new GameSphere, and maybe you want to try out an old classic. To other people, it's a service problem. Any fellow LimeWire refugees who are now paying for Spotify Premium can tell you, we're happy to pay for the music, provided it is as, if not more convenient than the more seafaring route. And while it's definitely more expensive than free, it also means you don't have to douse your hefty off-white Windows 95 desktop in diesel after it contracts, wait for it, Lyme disease, just because you wanted to listen to Linkin Park feat Jay-Z-num/encore. And maybe watch some porn. But for me personally, I'm just in it for the nostalgia trip, dude. Sometimes a man gets dumped and all he wants to do is get drunk and play Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories for 13 hours straight. Hypothetically. Valve generally consider piracy a problem with the service and not the community. If people can't play a game legitimately, they'll resort to piracy. And while companies like Nintendo have started offering a selection of their older games as a free bonus to their online subscription service, there are 2 major problems with that approach. 1, as anyone who's tried to watch Scrubs on Netflix post-May 2017 can tell you, online services are not a valid way of preserving content. And B, nobody gives a shit about 90% of these games. Hey kid, you wanna play some fucking Demon's Crest? Too bad. Don't get me wrong, it is nice to have some of the classics on here, like Link to the Past, Mario World, Super Metroid, and Star Fox. But the only reason those are even available to play is because they're all owned exclusively by Nintendo. So what if they want to add a game like GoldenEye, which was made for the Nintendo 64, by Rare, who are now owned by Microsoft, and using the James Bond IP? Not gonna fucking happen. And that's not even including games that flat out don't exist anymore, like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World or PT. Yeah, you're gonna have to shiver some timbers for those bad boys. But the truth is, it goes beyond just preserving the games we love. Fans have been going in and breaching firewalls and changing the way these games are played with things like item randomizers or ROM hacks, or that time over 1 million people tried to play the same copy of Pokemon Red at the same time. So while there are so many cases where piracy has had a constructive, positive effect on the games industry, a lot of times it's just a couple of swashbucklers who don't want to fork out 60 beans for the new Call of Duty. And Big Pharma don't like the idea of you playing Demon's Crest without coughing up a few V-Bucks. Which brings us to... People have been stealing stuff since the invention of stuff worth stealing. But unlike a car or wallet or small child, pirating doesn't involve taking something from someone else. You're just copy-pasting and using the second version. So developers had to get a little more creative with their security measures. For a long time, the standard was asking the player to input information from the physical packaging of the game into the cyber realm. The most famous example, of course, being Jet Set Willy, where you had to enter a color code that was included in the manual. But it's only a matter of time before the nerds hack the planet and change the software to bypass the security check. And what about the people who bought the game legitimately and lost the box and/or manual? Well, you can suck on my dick, you land-loving virgin. Avoiding piracy altogether is a lost cause. That leaves developers with a few different options to try and protect their games. There's the brick wall approach, which involves outright stopping progress from being made. This can be as simple as crashing the game whenever you get into a battle, like in Pokemon, or they can be a bit more subtle. Things like Faith developing a fear of heights in Mirror's Edge and refusing to jump. Game Dev Tycoon, which harnesses the power of irony and has imaginary pirates steal your imaginary game until you go imaginary bankrupt. Or Crisis Warhead, which just stops your bullets from doing any damage. And also their chickens. These will, of course, be patched out eventually, but definitely a pain in the hole for pirates to deal with for the first few weeks. Then there's the mild inconvenience approach, where you're able to play the game in its entirety, but it's sort of passive-aggressive about the whole thing. Stuff like Alan Wake wearing an eye patch for the whole game, or No Time to Explain, which gives all the characters pirate hats, and The Witcher 2, which swaps out all the female character models with this terrifying dead-eyed old lady during sex scenes. The idea here being that they've accepted the fact that you're going to pirate the game, and are just kinda poking fun at you. And then there's the more hardcore version of that approach, which I have elegantly titled, Fuck You. This includes games like Spyro and Earthbound, which again allow you to play the game in its entirety, but subtly alters it in ways to make you want to throw yourself in a fire. Things like removing a few vital items or collectibles, or an increased enemy encounter rate so you can't go 5 seconds without fuck off! But the real cream de la cream is that when you get to the last boss of either of these games on a stolen copy, it just fucking deletes your save file, dude. That shit is cold-blooded. But not nearly as cold-blooded as the critically acclaimed Cross Days, a Japanese erotic visual novel that came with a full-on Trojan virus, which, when illegally downloaded, would pull up all the user's personal information, take a screenshot, and publish it online for everyone to see. Which, by the way, would be very illegal if the user hadn't also given full consent to the process when agreeing to the terms and conditions. Fucking stupid ass horny weaves. In the end, I think piracy is a tricky issue. While it would be naive to argue that nobody steals a game out of sheer greed, or lust apparently, it's also hard to deny the positive effect it's had on us gamer girls. If nobody pirated Earthbound, then we probably wouldn't have Undertale. But if everyone pirated Undertale, then Sans wouldn't be in Smash. And that is literally the worst thing I can imagine. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, please don't pirate video games, unless it's for creative purposes, or for the sake of preservation, or if it's a fan-made localization, or if you want to. I'm not a cop. Anyway, that's about it for today. Usually I do the whole comment, rate, subscribe, Twitter thing here, but recently I started a Patreon, and there's a Discord channel you get access to if you donate, and it's fucking sick, man. I've been having so much fun on there. We all hop on the voice channel and get shit-faced and play video games pretty regularly, and we also do like game giveaways and general shit posts and stuff, and it's just great crack altogether. I'd love to see some more of you guys on there. So thank you to everyone on Patreon. You have no idea how much it helps. Super special shout out to my best boys, Calvin Lee Tilbury, Gunnar Clovis, and Nicholas Berube. I'm so fucking dyslexic, man. I don't know why I thought shoutouts would be a good idea. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for watching my video to the very end, and be sure to join us next time when our topic will be who's got the power to shake it? I don't get it. What does that even mean? Jennifer Flowers got the power to shake her.